And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's presenting today about
Cheesecake.
storytelling. And yeah, cheesecake. So we'll turn it over to Mike, and I'm happy. We're all happy here to also hear what kind of cake you like as you introduce yourself.
All right. So Mike Chabot from SUNY Fredonia, about an hour south of Buffalo, right on Lake Erie. My favorite kind of cake is caramel cake from Belize, but we've discovered it does not travel well. So my backup is Pepperidge Farm vanilla cake with chocolate frosting, but you have to keep it frozen. You have to cut it and eat it. It is awesome. Not great the way normal people eat it, but so I'm really kind of a much more of a cherry crisp kind of guy, so I'm not a big pie guy. Well, thanks. So so I'm gonna just share my PowerPoint. I promise, I hope this is gonna be a, oh, okay. Can you see my screen? Jen?
Yes.
Okay, good. And Jen, can I ask you a favor? Because I can't, the way our Zoom is set up, I can't see anybody once I do this. Can you, if somebody has a question, just interrupt me. All right.
Absolutely.
So, thanks. So introduction to StoryMaps. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some things on StoryMaps. I'm going to send Jen a list, or Haley, or wherever, however we best get this to you, a list of all the links for the things that I take us through today. So I would really like us to focus on questions instead of worrying about, I had batted this idea around about us trying to make a story map together. That would not be, it did not work out well on Mission Mosquito. So we're not going to recreate that disaster. So I'm going to send that list to you. So just please ask lots of questions. So if you're not familiar with StoryMaps, StoryMaps are an Esri web app that gives you the ability to be able to combine lots of different kinds of content. So interactive maps and videos and podcasts and narrative text to make digital stories. The really nice thing about StoryMaps is that they reside in the cloud, which makes them easily adaptable to whatever device you're trying to share your story map with. All right. Why I think that this is really important for us to think about is the IBSS opened up the opportunity for students to be able to use story maps for the IBSS. So it's a really nice tool for doing research, and I'll try to focus a little bit on that as we go through. All right. So I'm going to try something that you should never try, okay, which is a live demo. I'm going to try to just show you some really quick examples, and then after that, sort of field questions if you're open to that. So let me jump over. To my screen here. So this is when you go to ArcGIS or storymaps.arcgis.com. This is the screen that you go to. All right. We'll talk a little bit about ArcGIS Online toward the end of this, but if you have an ArcGIS Online account, my recommendation, same recommendation I make to my future teachers, the teachers I work with, the students I work with, is to use that same login, because then everything ends up being linked. You could create a map in ArcGIS Online, bring it into your story maps, and it's pretty seamless. So I'm gonna sign in to my ArcGIS Online account, and it opens up like this. Okay, so I'm going to start out by creating a new story. And all I'm trying to do is just give you just a really quick sample of the things that are there. So when I click on that new story, you get a list of options. So you can start from scratch, which means kind of a blank screen with some pieces in there. That's where I'm going to go. All right. But you can also use a quick start, which they have something called a sidecar. where you basically are dropping in, you can kind of see a description, an immersive block, and then you have narrative text off to the side. You could set up a guided map tour. And so an example for us could be, as a partner, you could build a story map that has the schools that are part of your partnership. And that guided tour, when you click on a point on the map, it'll take you to, could take you to their webpage, could take you to a vlog they've made, something like that. So that kind of thing. And then an explorer map tour, where you basically have interactive pieces that are linked to points on the map. Okay. No way I could do justice to any of this. I'm going to give you the same advice I give to my future kindergarten teachers who use StoryMaps. You just have to do it. Okay. So I'm going to jump in, start from scratch, and it launches the Storybuilder. And so first thing, every story should have a title. So I'm going to call this Globe Watercooler. Okay. And then it would be great if I had something down here in this text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a text block. And am I going to open up a text block? Oh, I have it here. That's what my problem is. So what I did, rather than have you watch me type text, what I did was create just a little thing about the Globe program. So in my story map, I just go here, Control V, okay, and get a really ugly looking paste. So now what we have is Globe Watercooler, who we are, since our founding in Earth Day, whatever, right? So my good friend Dave, who's on this call, might say it's important to kind of watch along with your story to see how it goes. So I drop that in, and now I want to see what it looks like. So I go up here to preview, and that's what it would look like to somebody who gets this shared to them. Jen, can you see the bottom of my screen? Can you see a little like violet bar pop up? Okay, so that violet bar down at the bottom gives you the options. If you wanted to share the story map with kids and maybe they were going to be on a tablet, you can click on this and it'll modify it to show you what it looks like on a tablet, what it would look like on a desktop, what it would look like if you viewed it, made it a full screen, or first one is how it looks on your phone. Okay, not a lot in here that that we need to worry about. So we're going to go back into our story map, and now I'm back into my draft, and I'm going to add another piece. So I'm going to go to this design phase, and I have to move you down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a theme. So I'm going to give it a summit theme. I think that would be great. Let's make it that way. So I changed this background to blue. I could make it obsidian. I could make it ridgeline. So lots and lots of themes that you could do. If I go back, and now I'm going to add an image to this. So now what I'm going to do is go into a folder that I created for my story maps. So this is a picture of one of the sites that that we used for the Be Wet grant that I did with Sarah and Kevin and Janet the last 2 summers. So you can drop this in as a background if you wanted to do this. This is a great pick of our teachers out doing a water sample along the shore of Lake Erie. So now we can put it in there. I can go down here, and let's say instead of wanting that as a background, I said, well, it would be really cool to add a different image. So instead of having it be my background, this is a picture of the kids when we did a water day at the elementary school. They had all their 5th grade students out there doing a series of doing globe protocols at different stations around the school. We spent the day out there. And so I can type in very quickly, yep. Graph like that. Can't spell Westfield, but that's okay. I did that on purpose so I could show you that you had the correction tools in there. And now I'm going down again. So I hope you're picking up on the fact that you get this little plus sign when you want to add a content block. So I will be honest with you, I was not an incredible fan of StoryMaps when they first came out, because the majority of the StoryMaps that people were making had no maps in them. It was just a real, you can see how easy this presentation tool is to work with. They were just doing awesome presentations, but they didn't have maps in them. So I want to add a map to ours. And here is where you get a whole bunch of options. I'm linked to my ArcGIS Online account. So these are maps that I've just have in my account. I'm going to click on this demo on live data. And so now what we have is a map, and over here it's showing the precipitation by amount by time, accumulation by time. It's got stream gauges, things like that. So it's showing you all the layers that are here. And if I place my map in here, now what I have is an interactive map where I can zoom in, right, and take advantage of the things like ArcGIS Online gives you, the ability to be able to change the scale on the map and things like that. I'm being a bad cartographer. I don't have the legend showing on here, but we can, it's easy to add legends and things like that to make it an even better teaching tool. All right. The next thing, let's see, so we can go down, let me show you, I can't get, okay. So that is a map that I had made, okay? So you could use your ArcGIS Online account. First, if you're working with students and this is brand new to them, you can also put in something called an express map. So an express map is a really cool tool to just let them be able to just bring in a map. So I'm going to focus on what we're doing here. I'm going to say I just want to focus on this part of Western New York. I could click on layers and add features to it. So I could can put in my legend. I could allow a search tool so somebody can look for a location. This is the base map is newspaper, but say I want to pick maybe a more familiar base map kind of thing. Click on done, and now that map is added, and again it's live. So I can go in, I could search for Fredonia, New York, right, and it'll zoom in to that location. So the maps, even though it's an express map and you haven't really done anything other than sort of define the area you want to look at, you have all the tools that come with ArcGIS Online. Right. Okay. I'm going to stop my share for a second and take questions about this awesome tool called StoryMaps. Mitch.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't see where you got the maps. I'm looking at my menu. I got design, preview, and publish. I don't see the maps.
Great question, Mitch. So let me share. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll drop another map in. So okay, so Mitch, when I get down here, just below the map, you see this little, if I kind of hover my mouse, I get a plus sign.
Yeah.
Okay, and when I click on that, then
wait, okay. A plus sign. Okay, I maybe my interface looks slightly different from yours, but mine is actually a bar. It says sidecar. And, Oh, you know what? Okay. I think I can add a page. I just don't know how to add the map. Go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, no, don't apologize. I think what you might have done when you went in, you may have, instead of starting from scratch, maybe you grab Sidecar as your template. And
Okay.
I'm going to offer some, I don't tell my students anything. I just say you have to use a story map because it's pretty awesome to watch the choices that they make. So sometimes they go from scratch, sometimes they like that Sidecar, sometimes they like the guided tour, those kinds of things, depending on what they're doing. I just worry that if I tell them I'll start with a Sidecar, then they're all going to look very, very similar. So I just leave it that way.
Right. Yeah, and I'm similar, but it doesn't always come out as nurturing as your statement. Mine comes out more like, do it yourself.
Well, yeah, that might be actually. So.
All right.
Okay. Other questions about this?
There's questions in the chat. So I asked,
I'm
can
sorry.
you lock in a view? Oh, of a map.
Can you lock in a view? Yes, you can. Let me make sure that resource is in the one I sent. Yes, you can freeze, just like I don't, Jen, is that your question, or was that, whose question was the lock in the view?
No, that was my question, because I was just thinking, like, if I wanted to show somebody something on the map, I don't exactly want it to be live for them to go away from what I want to show them. I want to show them exactly what I hope to show them.
Oh, yeah, no, right. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways you could do that, Jen. So let's use the IVSS as an example, right? So students had gone out and collected data, and maybe they made a map of their study sites. They're going to make that map a static map, right? You can still have interactive points. The base map itself is static. So now if they wanted, say they did four land cover sites, they could click on the point on the static map and bring up their data, right? They could have it set up in the story map so that they show image, they took a video or they took photos or whatever. But yes, you can lock the base mapping. There's also a way to, like when I typed in Fredonia, if I click, there's a little home at the top of that screen, because where I set it, it will take it back to home. It will take it back to the extent that I set for the map. Jen, I'm sorry. I saw that you wrote it, but I thought somebody asked it and you were asking for them. That's what
Oh no, it was me. So, and then how does it differ from, this is from Dave. How does it differ from a WordPress? Is it mainly the map function?
Yeah, Dave, I think the biggest difference between a story map and WordPress is the ease at which you can drop in, the ease of having different media types inside the map. Other than, I mean, when you share this out, and when you publish it and share the link, nobody can edit it. They can interact with it, but they can't edit it. Another really important improvement to story maps in the past. So Sarah, you may have had this experience, that the original version of story maps, if you published your map and then you said, oh, I blew it, I should have added that, you basically had to start over. Now with the new story maps, you just unpublish it, make your changes, and then publish it. And what's awesome is the URL doesn't change. It doesn't, you don't create it. So like if Dave, to your point, if you wanted to put it on a web page for students to go to and you wanted to edit it, you don't have to keep updating the URL. The URL stays the same, but you can update the story map and be able to share it.
Yeah, maybe the functions that I'm looking at are very similar between many of those things, but you could see how when you're done with that, you could post it immediately. Whereas like on a WordPress, you'd have to have a website, et cetera. So
right.
Yeah. Doing a great job, Mike.
Hey, well, thanks, Dave. As long as you're happy, Dave.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Barbara, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with WordPress. I've used it in the past, but not very much. But I think one of the biggest advantages of the story maps is that you also have access to just like millions of other maps that other people have made. And so you can layer on, you know, demographic data or land ownership or whatever. There's in ArcGIS Online, there's so many different layers that you can just grab and overlay with yours, which I don't think that's available in WordPress. And I'm not sure, Mike. So my question was, because I can do like your basic story map and, you know, tie in some Tableau and stuff like that. But once you have the story map, can students do the measurements on the maps the way you can if you're actually in ArcGIS, the program? Do you know?
Yeah, if you bring a map in from ArcGIS Online, you can enable the tools. So the measurement tool, the area, things like that. Yes, they can use them like you would in ArcGIS Online.
Okay, that's what I've been wondering. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a great question. I can see the clock on the wall above in my office, so I'm going to jump back and share a couple things before we run out of time. So this is just I wanted to share just kind of in general a really quick way that you could make a story map. This link is on the set of resources that I'm going to send. Okay, but the StoryMaps gallery is a great way to for you to get ideas, for students to get ideas. So if I click on, just going to click on coastal flooding, which is a really interesting one. This will kind of give you a sense of how you can set this up. So kind of, Dave, kind of a WordPressy website kind of thing. So these are actually internal URLs in a sense. So if I click on what are the data telling us, it jumps down in the story map to that area where you've built it out. What can you do to help? You can jump to the bottom, sea level viewer. So in this case, they built in tools. So if I click on this, it'll take me out to the NOAA sea level rise viewer where I can launch it. So very, very cool. That's the gallery tool. Okay. How do I get rid of this? There we go. Another, Barbara, thanks for asking the question you did, because the other thing you can take advantage of in StoryMaps is everything that Esri has available through ArcGIS Online. So the Living Atlas of the World is just an incredible, incredible tool to have access to be able to share. So if you've never seen Living Atlas of the World, you should absolutely, even if you never log in, just go around and poke around and be able to do it. Basically, Larissa, all kinds of partners. So the UN is partnered, all the global biodiversity groups, all that have partnered with Esri to make their data available in this format. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for lots of data sets that our students could add, that add context or comparison to the data they're collecting as part of their GLOBE projects.
Right.
So it's very, very, very cool. All right. One thing that I think is really important for you to think about is actually developing your own organizational account. Okay. So Esri makes their entire software package free to school groups. Okay. We are considered a school group. I mean, GLOBE partners are considered a school group. It's a little different, Jen, for like you and I on a campus. All I had to do was say, I don't want to deal with my administrator on campus, and they gave me my own organizational account. There are just immense advantages to having an organizational account. If you, as a partner, if you want to support teachers, you could be, you can partner on their story maps. So if a student was struggling to make a map, they've never made a map before, you could help them make a map in ArcGIS Online, and you can interact with it, then they can take possession of it. So I don't have a fancy organizational account, but this is our organizational account. And when you can poke around in here, so this is the landing page. There's a gallery where all the content that we develop goes up. So we have, these pieces that we're trying to develop. The demo from live data that I dropped into my story map was there, all this stuff. You can look at maps that are in, basically it looks like it is ArcGIS Online, but now this is from inside your organizational account. So when you go to add layers, you can add layers from the Living Atlas. And these are, I don't know how the best way, the Living Atlas is, lots of the layers are free to anybody, but other layers that are screened for accuracy, all those kinds of things, groups that are NASA is an example. The NASA layers on Living Atlas are available to the orgs, but not necessarily to the general public. So you can add all these things. So this is, you can sort, so get the most current data, things like that. The terrain model, this is a 3D model, so they'll always tell you about this. You can add it to the map, and it might have been a mistake. Oh, not too bad, I guess. All right. So now what you have is a 3D terrain map, and you can interact with it. Just a really very cool tool. All right, so there's a question in the chat. How do you get an organizational? Peggy, what a great question. Thanks for that. So
Just wondering.
No, yeah, and I zoomed right past it. So thanks for asking. So up here, the school mapping account. So this address is there. You have to read this little bit, but then you give them your email, your first name, your school. And right now, right now it seems to be about 2 days before you get your authorization to launch. So I haven't heard of any group that has gotten a no. So if you were to do it for your partnership, right? You make the request, 2 days later, you have the organizational account.
You said you had to kind of work with them on getting yours. Did they
Oh,
contact you
no,
about that?
no, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want them to connect my fredonia.edu email to say, well, you already have a SUNY ArcGIS Online account.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
I wanted to be able to keep because then if you coordinate it, then what I can do is I can invite all the teachers in my partnership to be part of the org. And then I can share things with them and they can share things with the students, or,
Okay.
it's a really, the advantage is that you get lots of abilities to be able to offer insight and suggestions without having to have somebody keep sending you links.
All right.
So
Thanks.
Mike, what's the advantage of doing it that way over using, because the University of Toledo, we have a paid account.
Yep.
So, and second question, I guess, is do you encourage your teachers to create their own school organizational account and
Yep.
then have all their students under that?
Yeah, and then what I do, Sarah, so let me answer that question first. So I suggest that they create their own organizational account, because then they can you can have period 1 Earth Science, have all the kids, and you get all those things like a Google Classroom kind of organization thing that gives you. If they can have me be like a co-administrator. So if they ran into a jam, then I can just log into their org and go in and troubleshoot.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
But your first question was, I wanted to be able to invite them into the org. And I'm fairly sure that, well, maybe Toledo is your paid account, somebody's administering that. And if they don't want people from outside the firewall to be part of it, most like on our campus, right? I put students in when I teach the GIS course, I drop them into into the campus account. But then when they're done, right, we remove them from that because they're not, if they're not a student, we're not supposed to let them continue.
Oh,
Kind of thing.
okay.
So, and that's the clunky part of ArcGIS Online, right?
Yeah.
no matter how many, I had a young lady in tears here yesterday. I begged her last fall to save all her stuff. 3 consecutive weeks. Have you saved your stuff? Have you saved your stuff? And she did not. And then she came back to this week and wanted something. And I said, Katie, I don't have it anymore. We had to wipe out the account. All right. Other questions? Holy moly. Jen, these 2-hour sessions that you give us, you know.
Hi, yeah, I actually had a
Hi,
question.
John.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Trying to keep warm. I'm used to the warm weather, so all of a sudden this cold is like a little bit of a change for me. I like it. I like it.
You realize your cold weather, most of us on this call think is warm, right? If it goes above freezing here in
Exactly.
January or February, we are pumped.
Yeah, exactly. No, like seriously, it's kind of like for us, it's like, yeah, it's like blizzard, like craziness, and for everybody else, it's like, it's not that bad. I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to keep warm, but I was going to ask you a really quick question. So I mean, I got disconnected, and maybe this has already been answered, but we had used StoryMaps before. We did like an outreach program. This is a long time ago, like 5-7 years ago, and that problem, that issue of trying to incorporate certain things, and if you make a mistake, you almost have to like start over, and that was kind of an annoyance for us. But now that I saw the little demo that you showed right now, is it possible, because what I was trying to do, I was trying to implement StoryMaps into 2 things. One of the things that we're doing with service learning at the community college to get these like to incorporate with Globe. And I saw something in the chat saying, have you envisioned incorporating with Globe? And I guess the other thing is, since I saw the interactivity that you just showed us right now with, bringing in that map and kind of focusing on near the Buffalo area, is it possible also to bring something like, or is it too much for the story map GUI to handle? If I wanted to bring, let's say, that visualized data, on Globe, is it possible to bring that in?
You absolutely, if you just bring it in as a URL, like when I launched the NOAA sea level rise,
right.
So I'll try to double answer questions. So when the teachers that have built story, it was a really nice idea. She built a story map for her students on how to visualize data in Globe, right? How to use Viz, right? Okay. So she kind of walked them through, and she had screenshots that she had done and explained it. And then the last one was a link that took them to the Viz, and a little sidecar that had, we want you to find noon temperatures at noon for the last week, or so. I can't remember what her prompt was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it
to your first question though? I think where you were going, story maps that you already have, I would try to bring them in to your account, like they're called classic story maps. I think if you can get a classic story map into your account, right, and then go in and edit it with the new story map tool, I think you'll be able to reclaim a lot of what you had. You wouldn't have to start from a blank screen again.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was kind of.
You can't embed classic story maps or classic maps into a story map?
What I thought John was asking was if I had created a story, if I had used the classic story map tool and now wanted to use the new story map tool.
Oh, I was thinking just the map view. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, John, if nothing else, the maps that were in there, you could always extract those maps. Like Sarah those maps are fine. You can just bring them in, but you would have to rebuild all the narrative and stuff.
Okay.
If it doesn't work.
Sure. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Mike, I have another quick question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever used the guided map tour template?
I have.
And because my complaint, like yours in the past, has been there's students create story maps with no maps. But if we're using the guided map tour template right from the get-go, it is a map.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. So I will tell you, I should have said this before. For my elementary method students, right? What I give them kind of the traditional endangered species assignment, the research project, right? And they whip through it and they do it like every third grade teacher would do it. And then I told them, okay, now I want you to take that and make a story map. And that's all I say. So I'm not much, Mitch claimed I was being nicer. I'm not really that nice. I do exactly what Mitch did but with a smile on my face. And they complain, they say, well, how we know? I said, you'll figure it out. And then when they take that same information and put it in a story map, I don't have to say anything. There is no debate about what project is better. Right? And because they're, it's questions like where does this creature live? That draws them into using the maps. Guided map tour is awesome. You just have to, they just have to be ready to build maps.
Yeah.
So it depends if that's, which is great, or they may have maps already built and then the map tour works great.
Cool.
What I like about the new tool, the express map option has saved a lot of anxiety, because somebody will drop an express map in and then they realize that's not really the map they want, but now they're more open to let's figure out how to make a map you want, right? And just replace the express map. You can just go back in and pull that piece out and add a new map in.
Mhm.
So we are at 1 after the hour. So I want to make sure that people that want to get going. And I don't know what Mike's schedule is, but you might be able to get him to answer 1 or 2 more questions.
I'm happy to continue to answer questions.
Okay, you were mentioning using this tool for IVSS, weren't you, earlier?
Yeah, IVSS announced, Peggy, that they could that the students could build out their presentation as a story map using the story map tool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't, it was funny because I know that that's true because I was on one of the webinars and they said it, but I don't know how widely they shared that. I know it's true because a couple of people have asked me to help them with building it out because they had heard it was. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been told, widely spread. I just missed it somehow.
They would still have to have a written report too, in addition to their, yeah.
They're replacing their poster in a sense with the story map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen a few? I guess you do that. I mean, I guess your students are pre-teachers, isn't that right?
Yeah, and I haven't, this is a new adventure, I think, for IVSS trying the story map thing. So I think it could work really well. It's got to be, well, for the IVSS, because it's a virtual platform, I think it could work really well. If we were to try to figure out how to do it with an SRS, I think it would be more of a challenge because you'd have to have a kiosk kind of setup for them to be able to do it. But
yeah, as an option, I think it's great. And I just love maps and this looks wonderful.
You too. It'll be interesting to see what people evaluating the projects think about the story map instead of a poster. It's kind of what you and I had talked, Jen, about this whole idea about better posters, the idea of, which I think we should still continue to talk about. And story maps goes a long ways. I never went back to my PowerPoint, which is what I usually do in class, which is why my students struggle to figure out what I'm talking about the next week. But, you have to storyboard before you story map. So I think it doesn't work well if they don't try to, in a sense, build at least a poster in their mind, right? They're going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. The story map really struggles. What's nice about it is you can, Mitch makes a decision to drop in some data and then he puts in a map. And then he said, oh, I think it reads better if I put the map than the data. You can grab the block and just drag things around. You don't have to recreate them, which is really nice. That was not in the classic tool. You were kind of locked into your first decision. We haven't, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Can they make a poster with story maps? I mean, like arrange it?
Oh, I'm assuming that I haven't seen the guidelines around using the story map. I'm going to assume that they're going to ask them to put in sections like they would in a poster. So, I started out with the globe water cooler. They would have, whatever the pieces of their poster would be sort of those headings for the sections, is what I'm assuming.
There are sort of limited layouts, right? At least in what I've seen, there's like
Yeah.
3 different layouts. You can do the sidecar where you're going across, or you can go down. It's kind
Right,
of,
but yeah, no, Barbara, you're right. I think what's interesting and what I think is really pretty cool is there are people that are getting, this is their full-time job. They do nothing except build story maps for whatever organizations they're working with. So now they have, you have that sort of generic, like start from scratch like I did, but now they have an immersive block that actually takes you to another story map. So like Sarah's question about the guided map tour, there may be a place where a piece of what you wanted to do works really well with a guided map tour, but the rest doesn't. So they build in a piece that when you click on it, takes you to a guided map tour. So that it's just, and the whole thing changed when Esri brought Alan Carroll over from National Geographic. It went from a really cool tool to a tool that really is intended on telling stories. So when you to listen to Alan Carroll talk about how National Geographic puts together a story and how he brought that idea to the way they design story maps. And again, I'm just, Sarah probably for sure has heard me complain about ArcGIS Online. It's not a complaint, it's just they keep improving it. And when they make changes, then it messes up your flow. Well, they're making improvements to story maps all the time. The addition now of audio files is really very, very cool. So now one of my students built out use a story map to look at birding in Western New York, so where you found these birds, and then, use the Cornell Lab of Ornithology for bird sounds and things like that. So now you click and now you have because you can carry this on your phone, you have a live map. This is where there was a sighting. What does it sound like? I mean, it's just such a cool tool.
I didn't know they included audio files. That's new.
Yep. Yeah, it's a new content block. Yep.
Cool. Okay.
So video came on about a year ago, and now audio, just flat audio.
Awesome.
People, I think they did it, Sarah, because people were just sort of hacking their video files, like pulling the video out and just grabbing the audio track, like blanking out the video track.
Yeah.
So they said, well, we might as well put up it's easy to put up that tool. So, yep.
Well, you could have, there's some really cool ideas then so you could do interviews, right, with people in the community about what used to be there, or, so bringing in that elder aspect of it, or historical aspect of it with these audio files. That's a cool thing.
That is such a cool idea, Jen. I'm writing that down.
It'd be very cool. I thought the same thing when they were doing the phonology campaign, right? If you had the students in the classrooms that were collecting phonology data, what if you asked them to do an interview they had interviews of students talking about their trees, right? What a cool thing to do, right? Get everybody in Europe that's looking at oaks or something, right? And talk about oaks. Jen, I didn't mean to blow off your question about using this with Globe. One of the struggles I'm having is that the web map service, like with the API, is a static thing. I thought it was going to be, I thought it was a live API, right? So we started trying to build in, like we're just going to build a map with cloud observations, right? And build it, you can build in, like in QGIS, you could build in a temporal thing that says, I want to look at clouds, I want to go by day across the last month or something, right? But the link to the Globe API or the web map service directions create a static map. It's just a raster. There's no way to interact with it. So I haven't given up on it. I just got to figure out what to do.
Okay, so that from the viz from Globe is static, or with a URL.
No, if you connect to the viz and want the kids to interact with viz, that's live. That's just like being on the, But if you wanted to build them, if you wanted to pre-build a map that was showing live data, that isn't, I can't get it to work right now when I build it out.
Okay.
Great
Have you ever-
presentation.
Have you ever tried doing that from other data services like Purple Air aerosols?
Oh yeah, we have lots of live stream data that we're using. Yeah.
Okay, so can I put in a request that you give a talk about that?
Oh, sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
I'll
would love to
come.
learn more about it because
I'll come.
I don't know. I need to know about that, and I don't know much about it.
So the best, this is, I claimed that I knew that this would happen, but I really didn't. I was part of New York State in second grade. They have maps. Mapping is part of their thing, and earthquakes is. So I had built a map using the live USGS earthquake mapping tool. And I was just showing, you could see these, I just had it set, show me earthquakes for the last week, right? And while I'm talking, there was an earthquake and the map changed on the wall behind me. And then my phone, I have it on my phone, so my phone vibrated because there was an earthquake above a 6 or whatever I have my alarm set for. That was very cool. And it's really easy. It's one line. It's one line of code. One line.
Okay, yeah. So please sign up for another one and show us just basics, intro, all the way as far as you want to take us.
Right. Well, you ought to try. Don't count on me, Sarah. I have high confidence in you. You opened up ArcGIS Online and go to layers and type in live earthquake USGS. That layer, I think you can just drop the layer in and you have a map. So you don't need me, kid. I have confidence.
Okay, Sarah, you can do that, and then I'll sign up for yours.
I'm not trying to get out of doing a water cooler. I'm just saying you would be kind of amazed right now how easy it is.
It's
Well, it
incredible
would be
how much is out there.
it would be super interesting if we did have kind of a story map jam session or something where everyone tries to make the coolest story map that they can in 30 minutes, right? And then we have like a little bit of a show and tell, like who wants to share their story map.
Yep.
So maybe we should do that as and we'll pick a holiday and we'll do it as a holiday party.
Sounds pretty stressful to me.
No, Jen, that's a great idea. Pull down, my suggestion would be pull down a set of data, right? Put it in a folder so everybody has that same set of data. And then say, okay, go, right? Make the coolest story map you can around this data set, right?
I'll have to do my homework.
And Peggy will have breakout rooms where Mike is just sitting there.
Ooh.
So that you can go into the breakout room with Mike and get personal assistance to make the cool one. And then you can come back out and work on your own.
I'm sure no one else would go in there and talk to Mike.
No, they wouldn't. That's the thanks. So Peggy, thanks for being willing to come into the room.
I'm just kidding. Everybody's gonna go there.
No. We'll set the limit in the breakout room to
good.
2.
Good. All right.
So
Thanks.
it can only be Mike and one other person.
All right. I can push a button fast. Just you and me, Mike.
It really is just the fact that and I think my students, even as much as we're paying them to admit, sometimes you just have to try it and you make mistakes. And I deleted a whole bunch of story maps. I continue to delete a whole bunch of story maps. It just doesn't work as well. So you're fine.
Is there a data limit on those free organizational accounts you were talking about?
So it's run just like the other. It's on credits. I think you only get 140,000 credits.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is wow. You would have to really I burned through 70,000 credits once. I geo-referenced every. I wanted to look at how we could involve Girl Scouts in a citizen science project we were doing. And so I wanted to know where these Girl Scouts were. So I geo-referenced the addresses for every Girl Scout in the United States.
Ooh.
My credit use was flat and then shot straight up. And then I got an email from Charlie saying, hey, did you try something different today on your account?
Wasn't
And
the
I told him what I
FBI.
did. And he says, yeah. You know, you burned through half your credits in 30 seconds. And I said, yeah. And he goes, promise me something. Do not delete that. He said, there's no reason to delete it. You have it now. Just don't ever do that again. But don't delete the file, because then you've just wasted 70,000 credits. So, you know, Barbara, you mentioned, did you say Tableau when we were?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on a story map that has embedded Tableau files, so that, and it's all the wildland urban interface data for every county, and that we actually have it at the block level, but that just crashes your computer. And so I just figured out that you can embed that directly into the story map and then make the map interactive. So you can not only like show them what you want to show them, but they can click in and get any of the data that's available. So we're sort of exploring that as a new visualization tool for some of these big data sets.
Yeah, oh, that's an awesome thing.
But I
It's
have
really this technology really has, yeah, we're still recording, right, Jen? So you could cut this part out, I think, right? I mean, the visualization tools that are free to people and at the scale that they're available, it's really hard for us to keep up with the Viz tool to be able to keep up with that. You know, my students routinely use census data around land cover change and things like that. It's just, you know, so to grab all the data from the census is freely available, all the, you know, it's very, very cool. And free. So not free, we paid for it, but you know, we paid income tax, we paid for it. They're not charging us a second time for it.
So that's why I'm excited about the layers, because so I've got all the WUI data, but one of the things I'm doing is just grabbing, like, you know, census data or, you know, income by census block or whatever. So you can overlay it with all these different things just to see. It doesn't mean it's a causal relationship, right? So I don't want to imply things that aren't backed up. Sure. But it's like you might be able to see something that makes you think, oh, I'm going to look into that and see if that's actually a related, you know, set of data.
Yeah. And the advantage, just sound like a broken record, the advantage to having using your Esri, whatever you're using for ArcGIS online, that same account for your story maps, is that if it's easier to refine layers in your ArcGIS map, that map that's linked out into your story map, when you do that, because it's a link to that story map or to that map in ArcGIS online, is automatically updated. So it's not like you don't have to make the changes in ArcGIS online, then go into your story map and make the changes. They've already been made because you made them on the backside. So I can't get my students to do that. They, for whatever reason, they do not want to link. They won't link their story map account to the work that we do. So sorry. It's just more, I don't care if they want to do it twice. It's good practice, I guess, but I don't have time to do it twice.
All right, it is 20 after. So I do, we ran over, which is, I mean, everyone had questions, and I know people left, they had to leave. So that's good. I do want to thank again Mike for presenting to us, and I think it would be super fun. Mike, thank you so much, because you just made it really simple and accessible. I think people want to try it, so that's good. That's good.